And thanks to you all for being here. So before we open it up to a wild adversarial debate about the future of retail, I'd like to get to know each of you guys a little bit better. Jane, let's start with you. You're the CEO of Julep. Julep is seriously cross-platform. You guys have 4 salons in Seattle, a great e-commerce site. You have your own products, you're a brand, and you're on TV all the time on QVC. How do you think about Julep, and what are the advantages of being so cross-platform?
It's interesting because about 2 years ago when we started launching our e-commerce site, being omni-channel was not a sexy thing. A lot of the VCs I spoke with wanted to only fund e-commerce pure plays and didn't like the fact that we had these other distribution channels. And now, omni-channel is the new hot word. And from where I stand, John just said that we're in the 3rd wave of e-commerce as he was introducing us, and I think we're really in the first stage. Thank you, Amazon, for creating and bringing consumers to shop online, but nobody's really tried to actually delight consumers by building a brand. This is all, e-commerce is another channel, and the core is about delighting consumers and having them want to purchase and continue to have a relationship with you. You can't platform your way to a great business, and you can't data your way there. I think you've got to, as a consumer business, really be focused on what you're delivering to the consumer and delighting her at every stage. Outside of cars and consumer electronics, women spend 90% of all consumer spending. So figuring out what is in her mind and how she lives her world, and by the way, we all do live our world in physical contact, not just online. So I'm really excited I think this is the best time to be building a business where we can leverage all of the exciting technology that is available and leverage it for the core purpose of building a business that delights consumers.
And quickly, you've got the 4 salons here in Seattle. Are you going to expand? How big of a bet are you going to make on physical environments, physical retail?
We really look at our parlors as a way to do real-life product development. So, for example, this year we launched over 50 products, innovative prestige quality products. Last month the CEO of Estee Lauder said that they're doing fewer new products, less innovation in a bigger way. We've taken that and turned it upside down and blown up the product development process by saying we're leveraging our online parlors and our offline parlors and our online community to do innovation very differently through A/B testing everything, not just the online experience, but also the physical product experience. So we're creating products 5 to 10 times faster and 5 to 10 times more of them every year than any other cosmetics company. So I think that our parlors are a big part of that. We're opening a pop-up store in New York, which will also be a pop-up beauty lab to, again, continue the idea of social innovation and doing business very differently.
Great. So hopefully a lot of you have read GeekWire's great stories on Hointer. Nadia, tell us a little bit about Hointer, and what problem are you solving for customers and for physical? A follow-up question for you. John Cook of GeekWire theorized on his radio show that Hointer sounds like to him, I'm not sure what actual words he used, but I think it was along the lines of a front for Amazon, that you've a long time and very successful Amazon executive, and he theorized that maybe Hointer is in some ways Jeff Bezos' idea of experimenting with physical retail. Is there any truth to that at all? You didn't exactly answer the question, but I'm guessing that it's... We've talked about this, and
I led you to the truth.
Okay.
Check it out.
All right, well,
now
something for
you're
us
the
to
reporter.
explore.
You have to dig it out.
Okay.
I can only imagine paper tomorrow.
Okay, Michael, Full Circle Farms. Nadia just suggested there are certain kinds of retail that e-commerce is not well suited for. But there are some big e-commerce players that are trying very hard, Walmart and Amazon when it comes to groceries. So, why particularly, what you guys are doing, organic food, why is that well suited for online purchasing and then delivery to the home?
I think what Hointer's doing is incredibly interesting.
As you all know, has been working on their Amazon Fresh here in Seattle for 6 years, maybe longer. What is your defensible customer proposition as Amazon looks at your business? Is the unconflicted platform for sellers, right? It's not competing with its own sellers, unlike Amazon. What is eBay need to do you think, to just make that case better to sellers who, because of the sales volume on Amazon, have been flocking there even as they bang their heads against the wall and see themselves competing with Amazon's first-party business? How does eBay make that in its effort to provide its sellers with these kinds of tools? So our topic here is the future of retail, and it seems to me that a fundamental question is, right now e-commerce I think is about 5% of overall retail sales, but it's growing much faster than physical retail. 20 or 25% growth rates. Physical retail is barely growing. What does maturity look like? We're talking about retail in 3 to 5 years. Does anyone want to tackle that? When do we start to see some parity in growth?
This is a debate that we're funded by Andreessen Horowitz, and Mark Andreessen has famously said that shopping malls are dead, and it's something that we always debate. From our perspective, I kind of look at it sort of differently, which is how does the consumer experience evolve, right? So in the previous conversation, we talked about sort of TV versus online, and when you look at, for example, like how consumers are buying today and watching TV today, 3/4 of people watching TV are doing it with a laptop, right? So, it's really about how these experiences get integrated and what business shifts and how they evolve. So, I think there's huge room for ongoing growth in e-commerce and sort of the amount that consumers are purchasing online. But we really believe that the winners are the ones who are thinking about the consumer experience in an integrated way. So that's why we are on QVC, and we're looking at, for example, TV advertising, and a lot of e-commerce companies are going back and doing TV advertising very differently. So, I was at BCG and Starbucks and was used to working on big CPG brands prior in my career, and TV back then meant, 7 to 8 figure budgets with, year-long timelines and huge agencies coming up with enormous kind of creative ideas. And today, we're doing it for low 6 digits, and thinking about the content as something that lives digitally in pre-roll on YouTube, and as well as introducing people to our brand in a very performance-driven way. So you can think about it like, hey, what's my online CPA, and how does TV function as fuel to lower that CPA and make all of our marketing spend more efficient? So it's a very different way to look at it, both from a sort of the entire supply chain of TV advertising. So everybody we work with is different in terms of the ad buying and the creative agencies, sort of much more nimble, much more flexible, much more performance driven. But there's definitely a role to be played in physical and in online and on TV to be able to support what businesses want to do. I mean, from our perspective, we believe that the next major beauty brand is going to be built online, not over the counter. Tremendous opportunity for personalization, for enabling a woman who, if you're 50 years old and African American, we should be showing you the products that look as they would look like on you. That's something that physical retail can't compete with, right? They can't give you thousands of user-generated photos on what a product looks like and give you that review feedback loop instantaneously. So looking at what the different channels are capable of doing, I think the big winners are going to be not e-commerce versus retail, but really how do you knit that together to understand the evolving consumer experience at the end and how that's pulled together.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the question is becoming less relevant.
How big is the existential threat of e-commerce to the big box, the remaining surviving big box stores like Best Buy, who grew up in an age where solving the selection problem meant making a big expensive bet on square footage? Can they survive? Okay, who wants to follow up on that one? Michael. Let's get you to address. I don't know how to follow.
This is why you want to have women on your panel.
Yeah. It's a good one. I'm just going to kick the question over to you. You can take a different approach if you like. If you're the CEO of Best Buy right now, let's say Best Buy buys Decide.com. What's your path out of the problem that they have gotten themselves into?
Sure. So I'm with Jane on it's really about the customer experience. I mean, if you look at online retail today, it's still about 10% of overall retail.
You worked at Nordstrom's. You're a board member at REI. It strikes me that those are two traditional retailers that are doing a tremendous job. What are they doing right?
A lot of
And pick up in a store. That is the worst of all worlds.
Solving the company's problem and not the customer's problem, but clearly it does work for some people. But Nadia, Mike mentioned showrooming. We can easily extend your sex metaphor, I guess, to showrooming. If you're a traditional retailer, how do you solve the showrooming problem? Can you solve it? Retailers need to be aggressive in
It's
making
not
sure
aggressive.
there are some retailers out there that are fighting showrooming with kind of bad customer experience tactics, like blocking Wi-Fi. What do you see as working as retailers try to describing precisely what you guys do, right? You can't walk into a julep salon and showroom because you have an exclusive on your own product.
That is a kind of a few beautiful things about our business is sort of high margin and vertically integrated e-commerce. But at the core of it for me, I think it's about how you approach business and sort of leveraging everything you can do in terms of experimenting online and offline. There's some online experiments that you can't do offline, and there's some offline experiments and conversations with customers that you can't do online. And so if you are fundamentally focused on delighting your consumer and providing products and selling them things that they want and anticipating their needs ahead of the curve, there is the way that you set your organization up for that, I think, is fundamentally impacted by what technologies and sort of data and all of that is available for use today. So I think where online focused retailers and brands have an advantage is really the mental process of how quickly we think about the world, how quickly we want feedback from consumers. I mean, when I worked at Starbucks, it was impossible to get data on who our customers were, right? I mean, millions of people walking in the door every day. We have no idea who they are. There's been significant sort of evolution of the data system since then. That was about 7 years ago. But the ability online to know exactly who your consumer is and marrying that kind of outlook with doing tons of consumer-centric experiments and conversations in order to improve your business. I think that's a very big difference in the way that I know traditional beauty brands and traditional retailers think about the world. The speed with which they're used to making decisions, the speed with which they're used to ordering products and planning farther out. I mean, it boggles my mind that Estee Lauder's response is we're going to do fewer things slower, right? That's kind of the response to the current world. So I think the true advantage that companies that are primarily focused online have is the way that they think about consumers and experimentation and sort of improvement and innovation.
And a quick question, would you consider selling julep products on other platforms or pushing them into Walmart or Target stores, or Sephora?
So we think about our business as building a brand. We're building a beauty brand online. So we're thinking about these decisions like we are available in Sephora because that's where the major beauty brands are sold. We are going to be available in Nordstrom starting this holiday season, and we're on QVC. That's how billion-dollar brands like Bare Essentials and Philosophy got started, right? We've said no to other major retailers that have more doors, and it's because we want to kind of uphold the brand proposition, and we've certainly said no to Amazon.
Interesting. So we keep seeing...
What about Vladimir Putin?
We keep seeing big retailers trying to mimic in different ways the advantages of e-commerce in their physical locations. So, personalization or recommendation, and they do it by tracking the customer's cell phone or putting cameras around their stores, to see where customers are flocking, and big data dust-up results. How and Michael, I'll kick this to you. How can big retailers compete with the advantages that these online stores have in terms of personalizing the experience without running into trouble or making their customer feel like that they're being watched?
Yeah, well, first, on the privacy side, I think it's all about transparency.
Next big thing is in retail technology. I mean, we're talking about all these consumer-facing things, but is it logistics? Is it somewhere in the back end of a big retailer where they can employ some of these new techniques to, as you guys are at Hointer, to make your increased selection and make your operation more efficient? Have any customers walked into Julep salons wearing Google Glass? What's the next big thing in retail technology?
For me, I think it's really about marrying what is available today in terms of data and communities to make the consumer shopping experience richer. So yes, in the physical world, there's lots of things you can do, but what's exciting to me about the online world in particular is the ability to bring in all of your friends. Like what I can't do when I go shopping in the physical world is bring all of my friends with me and get what they think, or look at what this product looks like on 100 women who look like me. So I think personalization that intersects across community and across your personal network is the next wave of if we can kind of bring products to you not based on algorithms, but based on who your friends are and what they're doing, and give you insight as to who people like you, what people like you are doing. I think that's incredibly powerful, and that's something that that you can do online that is harder to do offline.
So how is that ultimately mimicked in the offline environment?
In the offline world, you obviously are trying to create an emotional connection with one person, with the salesperson, or in our case, in our parlors, we have an hour to talk to somebody, right? And it's a super intimate environment where they're either holding your hands or feet. So there's a way to sort of really kind of form a connection, and it's also a social environment, right? We kind of created the Julep parlors to be very social, and that's the core of what we believe helps sort of spread and grow our brand. So I think, our big advantage, I think, is really sort of observing how people interact. I didn't make up the fact that women like to share nail polish colors with each other. We observed that in the physical world and brought it in a way that was easy to share online, and, saw it take off on Pinterest, right? I mean, Pinterest is all sort of wedding cakes, food, and nail polish. I think the real insight, we forget that you kind of have to step back, and as a leader, I've always felt like I get as much, I see the balance between having really deep conversations with 2 to 3 consumers, and then looking at the data, trends, and algorithms, and sort of marrying the insights that you get from both. So I think that's where sort of the next wave is you guys, it's thinking. It's like understanding the consumer. It's sort of having them fall in love with you. It's going back to, can you do that? That takes your heart and your brain and analytics, and takes everything that you have to bear.
So I want to,
I think
very quickly, Nadia, give me your characteristically no holds barred view on Walmart, which is the real 10,000-pound giant in retail, the biggest retailer in the world. Are they in the grip of the innovator's dilemma? Can they catch up to Amazon and make the changes they need to make?
I think they have a lot of power by having a network of stores. If they figure out how to reinvent it, they will be able to compete and win.
Okay, Brad, we do have a question out here, so
Great, let's
back
go.
here in the back.
Hi, I'm Cindy Engstrom with Circle Advertising. I have a question for the panel. I'd love to know your opinions on a big retail giant we're not acknowledging in the area who hits delighting the customer and avoiding showrooming, Costco. So do you think we'll see more retailers saying, hey, why don't you pay a little bit and we'll let you come in? I don't know, I'd just be curious to see what you all have to say about
Costco's got the
that.
greatest business model in the world. You pay them to shop there. I just spent a lot of time at Costco, so let me take the first stab at it. I did a cover story in Bloomberg Business Week a couple of weeks ago. 2 things, it's an amazing company, a classic retailer, frugal to the bone. The entire management team there is in their 50s and 60s. They've been doing the same, they've got the same playbook they've been running for 20 or 30 years. They've got an older customer. I do think Costco is going to have to evolve at some point. But they've got that lock-in, and Amazon really with Amazon Prime has mimicked Costco to some extent. So they, I think, have the longest runway of any of the traditional retailers to evolve their business model. Are you guys Costco members? Yeah, it's great.
One challenge I'd say they have, though.
Sells a 56-pack of toilet paper. There's no equivalent.
Yeah, they mask the model numbers as well.
Another powerful thing about Costco is curation. Though, I don't know if you guys ever watched Modern Family, but remember when the couple goes to Costco when they adopt their daughter. But it's cool to shop at Costco, right? And they have cool stuff, and they have when at Starbucks when we launched the Starbucks liqueur, we saw Costco as an advertising platform. So you walk in and there's like a palette of Starbucks liqueur, right? And it's sort of sending the message that Costco thinks that this is a worthwhile product. So on a cosmetics front, you see Bobbi Brown, you see really sort of prestige quality products, and it's not all cosmetics, but it's a handful of curated items. So I think it's a combination of the price as well as sort of the fact that it is a limited shelf space, and so they have to curate. And that's the other kind of a piece that there are ways to also kind of do that online. But I think that in a busy world, and I'm a mom with 2 kids, so in that environment, the ability to walk in, get all of your fundamental basics like toilet paper and milk and organic milk and all of that, and then know that the kind of handful of SKUs that they have in each category are going to be quality. I think that's the value proposition.
Great question.
Yes, Frank Catalano. A question. First off, by the way, you can compete with a 56-pack at Costco. Just get Amazon's Subscribe and Save, and you'll have 56 rolls of toilet paper in no time. Question for Mike, now with eBay. Decide.com was popular among consumers primarily, and now is on the seller side of the equation with the eBay acquisition. Is there a business to be made in retail, in the future of retail, of appealing to consumers who are trying to do something like Decide.com offered? Because right now, they're the ones who are losing that service.
So you're saying, is there a long...
Hi, my name's Terry Howe from Agilicis. You mentioned earlier that you're seeing or expect to see a lot of innovation at point of sale, and I'd just be curious to hear the panelists' idea on what some of the innovation at point of sale might be coming down the road.
You shop with your mobile phone, and whenever you're ready, you just walk away. At Amazon, you click and you're done. At Hointer, you walk out. That's it.
Michael, you think point of sale goes away?
Into an offline location and check out in the same cart in the same way, and it's one step and easy. That would be the ultimate evolution.
Well, in grocery stores, they've debated with the microchip.
I think we're running out of time. John, are you giving me the all
Yeah, I'm
clear
giving
sign?
you the heave-ho. Thank you.
Well,
Let's give a big
round of
hand for
applause.
this panel. That was fantastic stuff.